Hey, everybody, it's Chris Dortch from the Chattanooga Film Festival, welcoming you to one of the many chats that we're lucky enough to get to do for our 13th edition in 2026. And today is one of the biggest, like, twist my arm emails I've ever gotten in the history of our festival. Was an email from the assistant of the gentleman we're about to speak here to tonight, asking us if we wanted to help celebrate the 30th anniversary of a short film called Season's Greetings. And truly, like, the fastest yes I have ever typed, because in many ways, Trick or Treat is a movie that's, like, just absolutely in the DNA of this festival. And not to take things to too personal a place, but, like, when I moved back to Chattanooga, the first paycheck I got, which was, by the way, from a shitty industrial filmmaking gig, I used that paycheck to buy my Trick or Treat Blu-ray and watched it with my dad and just thought, man, this is the Halloween set movie for me. So it's a genuine joy to talk to you and kind of discuss the evolution of Sam as a character. And to kick things off along those lines, I'd love to welcome Michael Dougherty, our guest, but also say, Sam's been with you for an awful long time, man. There are very few filmmakers I can think of, maybe Mr. Kane Parsons, who directed The Backrooms, that's currently blowing up the world, who can say that they started with something that essentially was a student film for you. You were at NYU when Sam first entered your life. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that origin story and sort of the people you recruited to make this very handmade. And again, that's something that in your director's statement, when you sent this to us, you said a lot of things about the state of the industry and about where things kind of are with AI. And that's very much you speaking music to our ears as well, because we are, as far as I know, the only festival to have banned films made with the use of generative AI. And that handmade, like you said it yourself very well in your director's statement, that this film feels very much alive. And that's something that I did just want to, applaud you for, especially now. Like, and I know you're starting to work more toward animation again, and that's something I'm excited to see. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a little love for how handmade all of this is and how organic it began.
Thanks, I appreciate that, and thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. Listen, Sam turns 30 this year, which is crazy to think of, but a lot of people think that he started in Trick or Treat, which came out in 2007. But he actually predates Trick or Treat by a full decade. He started as a hand-drawn doodle in my notebooks, in my sketchbooks when I was at film school. And over the course of 9 months, so roughly the same time as it takes to gestate a child, I drew this animated short film, and it debuted at an NYU Film Festival April 1996, so it's just over 30 years ago, which again is crazy to me. But I've always loved Halloween, and I've always been kind of surprised and maybe a little disappointed that Halloween never had a singular mascot the same way that Christmas has Santa Claus, Valentine's Day has the Cupid, St. Patrick's Day, Leprechaun, whatever. And, Halloween was sort of like a menagerie of spooky characters, witches and ghosts and black cats and vampires. It's the whole works. And I thought, but there should be a singular mascot. And obviously, it's like, as horror fans, as film lovers, we always watch horror movies, and so yes, there's Michael Myers, and I love Michael. I love the Halloween films, but he didn't quite capture the mischief of the holiday for me personally. And I always thought, well, what if there was sort of a more childlike mascot, a more childlike spirit for the holiday? And I just started doodling sketch after sketch after sketch, and I realized this is what my senior thesis film should be. And I was 20 at the time, I think, that I conceived him initially, because it was over a summer. And I sat down one night, and the whole thing just kind of came to me like a stream of consciousness. And I sat there with a stack of index cards, 5x7 index cards, and I just storyboarded the entire movie straight through, like without stopping. And I still have those storyboards too.
That's so awesome. And I have to, ask a bit about, how did the elements of Sam's character, you talk about him, and again, Dustin and I were talking before we started recording that, when you go to like a Spirit Halloween store and you pick up a Ghostface mask, they, the owners of the Ghostface trademark say the icon of Halloween, and we think that's bullshit because it's Sam. And to me, that you position Sam, and you said it very well yourself, as a quiet enforcer of the rules of Halloween, like this guy who's just there to gently make sure the candles in your jack-o'-lantern don't go out, and that you're, treating the trick-or-treaters the way they deserve. I'm just curious how those elements of his personality began, because, you also described, his early origins as being kind of, we brought up John Carpenter, famously refers to Michael Myers as the Shape. You kind of talked about Sam as this presence. How did that mischief sort of take the form of him being, kind of the ultimate Halloween hall monitor, without the narky vibes that would imply? Yeah.
I like that. I might have to steal that.
Please steal
the Halloween hall monitor. Well, I've always been fascinated with the holiday itself. And as a kid, because my birthday is like a few days before. So like my birthday and Halloween and trick-or-treating all sort of mashed up into like one event when I was growing up. And so as a result, I was always fascinated with sort of, well, what is the history of the holiday? And the more I dug into it as a kid, the cooler it got. I mean, it's already amazing, right? Like we get to dress up in costumes and go out and get candy and then come home and watch scary movies. And there are no obligations to like go visit grandma, right? Like there's none of that shit. It's pure fun. And it's a little bit mischievous and a little bit naughty, right? And the more I dug into the history, it only got better, because you found out it's based on an actual pagan holiday, right? And that in some ways, by dressing up in these costumes and going out and begging for candy, we're still practicing these weird ancient pagan rituals. But by the way, Christmas is no different. Christmas really is.
I was just going to say,
we're still celebrating. Every time you decorate a tree, you're celebrating. You're celebrating a pagan tradition. Anyway, but Halloween, there was no takeover by Christianity. I was raised in a Catholic upbringing, so for 12 years, Catholic education, and but unlike the other holidays, Christianity never successfully co-opted Halloween, right? Like November 1st is
the coolest.
Is the coolest. Yeah. November 1st was All Souls Day. But the more I dug into Halloween and the way that we celebrate it today, the more I realized like there's something else going on here. There's something beneath the surface. It's still kind of mystical. It's still kind of magical and creepy and cool. And I thought, well, if there was a mascot, it should come from that folklore, right? It should feel ancient, yet modern. It should look like a child, even though it's not. And it should protect and enforce these traditions in the same way that, it's like Christmas has certain rules and traditions. Santa Claus has a list. He's checking who's naughty and who's nice.
Got to leave out the cookies, the offering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like every holiday, no matter where it comes from, whether it has been co-opted by Christianity or whether it's from a pagan influence, there are just certain rules. And, even Passover, it's like they had to smear ram's blood over the door to avoid the angel of death for the firstborn. And so there's always like this weird level of enforcement to all the holidays, right? All the traditions are sort of meant to protect you from some form of punishment from supernatural deities. And Halloween was no different. And like when I was a kid, I practiced the idea of not blowing out the jack-o'-lantern at night, like letting the candle burn out. Like that was one that I sort of came up with on my own.
100% did the same thing. And I had never heard it articulated until your film, and felt so fucking vindicated and seen by the fact that that clearly was an unwritten rule of the holiday. Like this needs to keep burning until after midnight, at least. So
that one I kind of made up, but the other ones are based on actual folklore, like the idea of wearing costumes. Like that tradition comes from dressing up as spirits so that when they enter our world on Halloween night, they think you're one of them. So it sort of acts like camouflage. And that way they don't drag you back to the underworld, back to the afterlife. And then appeasing these wandering spirits with treats or offerings or candy, baked goods was tradition. These are all things that were drawn from folklore. And so I felt Sam should be inspired by all of that. Right, he should enforce these things, and if you break those traditions, he's coming for you. And that felt just like a rich backstory for him.
I couldn't agree more. And, one of the things I personally always loved, I'm a big Halloween 3 fan. I think a lot of us
so good.
have come around to the masterpiece that it is. Yeah. And I loved the idea that, had that succeeded, we might have gotten a Halloween set anthology. And you got to do that. You did it. You pulled it off. And
that's because I read an interview with Carpenter.
So I was curious if there was a correlation. Yeah.
Yeah, I read an interview with Carpenter where he talked about how the plan was to make every Halloween film, to make an anthology of Halloween films, right? And that obviously didn't work out because Halloween 3 wasn't a financial success. So I thought, well, if he's not going to do it, And then ironically, the first incarnation of Trick or Treat, it was pure anthology. Like it was 4 stories, one after the other. They weren't really intertwined. And then so Stan Winston was originally the producer. And so Stan said, well, we should do this like Creepshow and get a different director for each segment. And so Stan was going to direct one. He was going to direct the final piece with Sam fighting Krieg. And we got Toby Hooper attached to direct the segment with the zombies. And we went to John Carpenter and asked if he would direct the segment with Dylan Baker burying the body in the backyard.
Right.
And like, to my shock and horror, he said yes. Like I had to go meet with him. Like he had a screening of the thing and he did a Q&A at the Egyptian, and we had the same agent at the time. And so he had read the script, and my agent said he wants to meet with you. He's going to take a smoke break while the movie's running. So you have to go meet with him on the side alley of the Egyptian theater and talk to him about it. And so it was just me. It was like me approaching God as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's a terrifying meeting.
And trying to convince him, like, please, will you please do this? And I'll never forget. He like was smoking the cigarettes. Like, all right, kid, I'm in.
But it's in an alley behind the fucking Egyptian too, man.
It's too perfect. It felt so written. Yeah. Unfortunately, all the studios passed on that incarnation. Shockingly, even though we had Stan Winston, John Carpenter, Toby Hooper, and George Romero. It was like the Avengers of horror as far as I was concerned. And all the studios said, this is too old fashioned. I'll never forget seeing the note. Nobody wants to see vampires, zombies, and werewolves.
For 5 more years at least, or whatever that. God, man, that's wild. So I'm curious. Obviously, that's maybe where the seeds of the anthology format took place. What was the driving force between having all those guys involved and then suddenly deciding, okay, this is going to be my directorial debut?
Well, it collected dust for a while, and then Legendary came along and sort of blew the dust off the script and said, we'd love to make this. And that was because of an executive named John Jashney. He had read the script when it initially went out, and he was at a different company. But he remembered it and he liked it, and we had met. And then when he went to run Legendary, he said, let's do this. And I had since the first pass, I had gotten more on-set experience because I was around for X-Men 2 and Superman Returns. And
which, by the way, we have to interrupt you and just tell you how much we fucking love your Superman Returns script. We talk about it often. So, just fucking great. Absolutely.
And so they said, would you want to step up and direct this? And I thought, abso-fucking-lutely. And so it was one of those lessons about how, life gives you lemons. Can you make lemonade? And I'm like, yeah, I can make lemonade. I can make lemon meringue pie. I can make lemon squares. I'm really good at taking life's lemons and making things with them. And sometimes what feels like a setback is a setup. That it's like sometimes you just have to be willing to let things marinate and take their time. And considering that, the animated short was made 10 years prior, I mean, I had 10 years to sort of really work on Sam as a character, because between 96 and 2006, I was still drawing him. I was still creating postcards and doodles, posting them on the internet, on my website at the time. And so
at this point, you're on Blue's Clues. You're working in the animation field at that point. Yeah, that's a big thing for a lot of us too. So it's very cool that you had the time to build his lore up over.
I was working on Blue's Clues. I almost got fired so many times from Blue's Clues because I would do stuff like because it was my job to animate Blue bouncing across the screen, and every now and then she would do this like little dance where she spins around. And I still have stills from this. I would give her like a little pink butthole for like one frame.
I'd do like severed head in her mouth. She likes it.
I did some weird stuff. I would put like when Steve sat in the thinking chair, like there were like the wallpaper behind him looked like little spirals, right? And I realized if I rotated the spirals in the background, I could put a 6 here, a 6 here, and a 6 above his head. I think those got through, actually.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad I brought up Blue's Clues. So if only to know what a rogue Blue's Clues animator you were. That's incredible.
All the animators were twisted fucks. Like all animators are. It doesn't matter if they're doing kids TV or whatever. Like they were twisted fucks, and they try to slip stuff through. The editors knew to like check my shots like frame by frame to see if I was fucking around. Anyway, it's like that's why I have a mischievous spirit, which is why I made a mischievous spirit in the form of Sam.
Along those lines, it's also very cool to me that it almost feels like you pay homage to the story of Season's Greetings in the framework of Trick or Treat, and of course the surprise party segment where Dylan Baker is the stalker who then becomes the victim very quickly, and I kind of loved that in a way came back into the story there.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I feel like all the stories, there's no real bad guy in the movie if you think about it. There's no real good guys either, right? And honestly, all the human characters are the real villains, like Dylan Baker and Brian Cox and those and the kids who pull the prank in the rock quarry. They're the villains of the piece, right? And then the supposed monsters, Sam, the werewolf girls, and Rhonda, in my mind, was always a witch.
Yeah,
right?
no,
that was always meant to be the implication, like that she's a witch, but she doesn't know it yet. She'll figure it out over the next few years, right? So all the real heroes of the piece are werewolves, a pumpkin demon, and a witch.
It also, like, truly one of my favorite moments in any movie is the moment where Rhonda and Sam pass each other. And there is that little, and maybe that's the moment the witchcraft begins. But I just like truly like full stop, man. And like this comes from like a childhood spent, with Ray Bradbury's The Halloween Tree and just immersing myself in anything that could give me those vibes. Truly, Rhonda's segment is my favorite Halloween set story, full stop. Like, I think it's absolutely awesome. And, I have to ask, how surreal has it been to watch even little details like the masks of the kids on the bus become things that are now so iconic. Like you can walk into a Spirit Halloween and it's crazy how many of these things have found their way, into Halloween decor and, theme parks all over the place. So
it's nuts. It's nuts. Like it feels like a spell that worked, like a wish that came true. And every year it just gets bigger and weirder for me. Like last Halloween, like my house, we do a whole thing. Like it's a big ritual where my friends come over because I get hundreds and hundreds of trick-or-treaters in my neighborhood. And so, I do a whole thing where it's like we put a cemetery out front and fog machines and music and blah, blah, blah. And I had 5 or 6 kids show up to the house dressed as Sam.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
They don't know it's me. They don't know whose house they're coming to. But there was like my creation coming back.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Candy, and I was like, this is a surreal moment.
This is the universe affirming my decisions. Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. And then I would take my dogs for a walk around the neighborhood in October. And then there are Sam decorations hanging from neighbors' trees or on like, I'll never forget seeing the Spirit Halloween animatronic on somebody's front porch around the corner. Right. And again, they don't know that I'm their neighbor, but it was so weird. Like I had to stop and do a double take because it felt like seeing my kid had just snuck out of the house or something.
It's also wild how many mediums you've worked with Sam in now. Considering that, obviously starting from the animation project, the graphic novel, obviously the adaptation and Days of the Dead are both fantastic, and I want to give those a shout out. So hopefully some folks that might not have read them yet will pick them up. But I'm curious if there are, since obviously we're getting a 30th anniversary of Season's Greetings and getting to celebrate Sam a bit more, if there might be more Sam in the future. And again, this is from someone who the first time I saw Season's Greetings was as part of that 24-hour marathon that FearNet did, and RIP FearNet. But it's wild that 30 years later, this is still something that I'm going to put on every Halloween until I am dead in the ground. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. So,
yeah, listen, it's I feel lucky that it has become a Halloween tradition unto itself, and the irony that it's a movie about Halloween traditions, and now it actually is becoming one for a lot of people. I feel very lucky to gotten the opportunity to make that happen, and knowing that the graphic novels are also starting to fall into that category for a lot of people means a lot. And yeah, I think we're going to see more Sam. I won't
twist your arm, but that's beautiful.
I don't want to get people's hopes up about the sequel, because that's always what happens. Like if the moment I mention the word sequel, it's like there's just a cascade of news stories. Like Michael Dougherty said the word Trick or Treat 2. Or Michael Dougherty said sequel. And everyone's like, is it finally happening? And it's just, I hate to like dangle that carrot, because I only have so much influence over that decision, right?
100%.
Like my co-writers and I roped in the co-writers of Krampus, and we wrote a great script. I storyboarded the entire film. Right?
That's amazing.
So I have 700 plus pages of storyboards for Trick or Treat 2.
That's beautiful.
It prints out like that. It's that thick. And concept art, you name it. And so I'm ready to go, but the ball is firmly in Legendary's court, and I can't twist their arm to make it. That said, we will be doing more toys, we'll be doing more graphic novels, and other things that I can't speak of yet.
Obviously, this is something that you guys have taken quite a bit of time in painstakingly restoring. It's beautifully in 4K now. It's got a 5.1 theatrical mix. I'd love to talk a bit about the process of restoring it, and also, kind of the surreal journey of revisiting literally a student project 30 years after the fact.
Yeah, it was funny because I think it was around last summer or so, I was talking to friends about the animated short, and somebody threw out the idea of remastering it. And I realized that, I had a 16 millimeter print that I had transferred to VHS and digitized. But, there's something about the short, the originally animated short, that has never left me, and it holds a very special place in my heart. And even on my worst days of making these big tentpole movies, or if I'm sitting there getting studio notes, I would like mentally transplant myself to just the Zen place where I'm sitting there just animating. And a productive day when you're doing animation is maybe like 8 drawings. If I can get like 8 to 10 drawings done today, I've had a good productive day. And there's something zen about making a film in slow motion and doing it by hand. And so I really loved it. And I obviously love it because it's where Sam was born. And I thought, yeah, let's remaster it. So I took it to this great place in Hollywood called Origins Archival. And they took this like dirty, beat up 16 millimeter print and scanned it at 4K. And then we went through it frame by frame and like cleaned up all the dust and scratches. And they could only take it so far. Before I said, I need you to give me every single frame of this film as a 4K individual, like Photoshop file. And I'm going to take them home and I'm going to sit there and go frame by frame and finish cleaning up things that I wasn't able to do when I first drew it. And I sat there for like 3 or 4 weeks, and it felt like the same kind of muse took over, the same kind of weird spirit took over that guided me when I first made the film. Like, I stopped returning phone calls and emails. I stopped socializing. It was the first thing I would want to do when I woke up in the morning, is like go downstairs, open up Photoshop, and restore this old student film, this animation. And it just took over. And it was so fulfilling in the weirdest way. But there's something about it that is, I guess, purely me, and captures a certain spirit that is hard to replicate these days, because we live in this era where everything is so easy, especially with AI. You can just open up an AI app and type, show me a creepy little trick-or-treater wandering through a neighborhood, and you'll get something. Will it be good? That's debatable.
I would like to posit that it would not be good and would in fact suck a bunch of shit. But that's,
But I don't know. It just brought me back, and I just thought, well, why not finish this 4K? Why don't I go back to the original sound designer and composer, get him to remaster it in 5.1? And just as we were finishing it, funny enough, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. I got a phone call from Fathom Events.
Right.
And they said, hey, we're going to put Trick or Treat back in theaters. Is there any bonus content you want to include? And I was like, funny enough, there is.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so we attached the 4K to that for the theatrical re-release last year. But even then, I wasn't happy enough. I had to go back and still tweak it. And so the version that's showing at Chattanooga is actually more refined than the version that played in theaters last year.
That's beautiful. Like, I can't believe you're getting your hands this dirty on it, that you're literally doing this again by hand. Like, that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was digital, because like when I made it the first time, no computers were involved whatsoever. Everything was drawn by hand, shot on 16 millimeter film. Like, there's not a single pix, like a 1 or a 0 involved with the making of the original animated short. This time around, like, I'm using modern technology. So yes, I will be going in Photoshop and fixing certain errors and things like that. Nothing like the Star Wars special editions. There's no like, nobody
shoots first that didn't need to.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. Yeah. But everything was done to sort of replicate the same feel of the original animation. Yeah, it's just really rewarding. And, for fans of Trick or Treat or fans of Sam, this is essentially the Steamboat Willie, right?
This is a time capsule that needed to be preserved 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's just funny. There are a lot of Trick or Treat fans out there that don't know. Again, they don't know that Sam started as a cartoon, but he did, and I'm hugely proud of that.
Mike, I really, truly appreciate you coming here and talking to us a bit about Sam. It's honestly a joy to get to hear that he still means as much to you as he did that many years ago, and to be this in love with something you've created this long, into the future, just feels beautiful. And it's clear that Sam was born of this place of genuine love for all things in this genre. And as people who've made our entire lives about, sharing and preserving as much great genre cinema as we can, like, much love and hats off to you, especially for going as handmade as you did in a time when AI is trying to eat the souls of literally all human art, it seems. So
you're welcome. I was happy to be here.